to submit their records digitally, their VAT returns in a digital form. So that was the first stage. Many people didn't think it's going to happen. Many people even now don't think it's going to progress. But here we are. The first stage is gone. We are preparing for the next stage. That will be April 2022, where all the VAT registered businesses will have to be compliant. So even those under the 85,000 turnover. And then from April 2023, which is the biggie, I think, for all of us, is where the Making Tax Digital is coming into effect for the income tax. So this is quite a big difference that is going to be for us as professionals, for accountants, and for our clients as well. Because if you imagine now, you did your tax return once a year, you submitted it, and that was it. So when the Making Tax Digital for income tax will come into effect for income tax, it will mean that the self-employed will have to submit their income and expenses on a quarterly basis. So if you imagine, that's a big change to many of those businesses. And obviously with that, some things will need to happen in the practice, that we need to adapt to it. We need to change the way we do things ultimately, because seeing your client once a year is not going to be any good anymore. So it's very important that ourselves as accountants, we are prepared. We are actively doing something about it rather than just waiting until it will come into effect. And every accountant, and I'm speaking to many accountants, every accountant is at a different stage. So it would be very wrong for anyone to assume, because everybody is at a different stage of their journey. Now, I'm delighted that I have a couple of people that I personally invited today, and I'm hoping they will agree to speak and kind of talk about their opinion and their experience so far. We have Andrew Gilpin, who is a partner in WHR Accountants in Northern Ireland. Obviously, as everyone knows, I have very soft spot for Northern Ireland. So I'm delighted that we have actually firms from Northern Ireland representing today. And then we have Tim Bowers as well, who is representative from AAT, which is Association of Accounting Technicians, to which I'm a professional member as well. So thank you guys for joining us. So before we dive into the topic, I would love to hear from you, Andrew. Where are you on this? Which stage are you at in your journey? Obviously, something must have happened because MTD for VAT already kicked in. So I assume you somewhere on your journey, but then where are you going to be heading in terms of Making Tax Digital for income tax? What do you see? What do you foresee that will need to happen to clients in your practice? How are you preparing for that?
Okay, morning everybody. I suppose where we are on our journey, the VAT MTD, we got round reasonably well by using bridging software with our clients. A mixture. We do use all the likes of Xero and QuickBooks and Sage for the clients that really wanted to buy into it. But where we had our problem was some of our clients, I'll say a large proportion of our clients didn't want and didn't have the ability to use the software packages. So that's where we set up the basic spreadsheet and give them the option for them to input into it and send in to us, and we would upload, or we still then would have a section of our clients where we still have to process VAT. So I suppose this then feeds into the income tax side of things, where I'm definitely seeing that we're going to have more problems, and whether that's just down to our clients, the majority of our clients, maybe us being rural, not big city clients, just don't think that way, that they want to use systems. I see this gap of getting everybody ready for 2023 as a real problem. I will have a percentage of, say, 10-15% of clients that are already there, and it's no problem. It's the other 85% that is going to be a challenge, and how we're managing it. We are trying to get clients to buy into the accounting software, but where I've had problems in the past is you can't simply just throw a system at clients and expect it to fix a problem. It needs a lot of training. And some people just want to get on with their day job. They don't want to be getting into running after systems. So that's where we are, probably very early on. We have, like, I've brought in a couple of people from a sort of management and systems background. And even at the start, when I brought them in, they very much thought, yeah, we can fix this. And probably over the last couple of years, we have broke them down to them realizing just the size of the problem we have. And just, sorry, to put us in perspective, like, we're a firm of I think with 30 employees, so we have a fairly big client bank. And it's daunting enough, to be honest, as to how we get all of them clients ready for 2023.
Thank you, Andrew, and thank you so much for being open and honest about this. And I know for a fact that there are many practices like yours, and you're just trying to do the best for your clients. But yes, I can see it's going to be a struggle. Tim, welcome on the stage. So from what you heard from kind of partner in the practice, and I'm sure you hear from many accountants in your job, what's your reflection on this, where you know kind of that so many practices are still kind of, they see there is so much work that needs to be done and they might be struggling. So what do you see as kind of professional body? What do you see, what would be, or what could be your role? How can you help the members? And then obviously there will be ACCA, ACA, other professional bodies kind of hopefully stepping in. But what do you see as your role where you can actually help the professional accountants to help them on this journey?
Good morning, Eva. Just to check, this is my first time in Clubhouse. Thank you for inviting me. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, perfect.
Great,
100%.
that's a good start. Thank you very much. So, yeah, I really enjoyed listening to Andrew's honest commentary on the experience. I think there's two parts to what I see. So I work as insight manager at AAT. So I'm not an accountant or a licensed accountant, but I do hear and gather lots of views of people who are working in practice, either owners or people who are working there who've come up through the ranks doing AAT. They might be doing level 4 or something. But there's the big part, I guess, is the fact that you've already referenced it, is when these changes, when we get the mandatory changes rather than the softer changes that are part of making tax digital, this will be where AAT might be able to help, and where I should be encouraging sort of the direction of travel with how we can support our licensed members. Because at the moment, as Andrew said, if you've got a lot of client reluctance or refusal to take on these things, how do we overcome that? And I think probably one of the best ways is by sharing best practice. And the fact that I'm speaking to you today, Eva, is by the fact that I was in a really interesting conversation with you in a roundtable discussion for licensed accountants with AAT, and there were lots of ideas thrown up. But what I'm seeing in the research capacity is there's a gap maybe with AAT for the best sharing of information. And it would be great to get a steer from yourselves and others about how best AAT can do that. Would it be by doing maybe a live webinar with an experienced speaker who can talk about how to resolve the difficulty with reluctant clients and how to have a roadmap to 2023 to when the changes come in and for 2022. And that's one part. The other part is when we actually talk to our members about their feelings about making tax digital. In general, we did a survey with them just at the end of last year, beginning of this year, and we were asking them about where charities and not-for-profit organisations fit within the scope of making tax digital. And there was division actually within the survey, and we had several hundred people complete it. 42% felt that charities and other not-for-profits should be within the scope for MTD, but 35% said no, and a further 24% were unsure. So even there's a lot of uncertainty about about how this will work. So we've got to work out how we can get the client reluctance, and then how to get people to sort of understand how they'll engage with businesses in different sectors. So those are my initial thoughts, Eva, and everyone around that from the AAT perspective.
Thank you so much, Tim. Thank you. Andrew, going back to you, picking up on what Tim said, but kind of widening the question. Yourself as a practice, what would you expect, or ideally, what would be the ideal scenario of support that you would expect, A, from your professional body, and B, from the software vendors? What is the support that you as a practice would like to see in incoming months?
I don't, to be honest, like our professional body, they send out enough support and to happen. The problem is the client. You can't force a client to actually do this, and what their opinion on this will be, sure, you'll sort this out for us. So it puts more onus back on us. And if I'm looking at it from a practice point of view, is how we're going to achieve this over the next few years, it probably means putting more admin staff in place to process quite a lot of this for clients. And a problem I would see with accountants, and I'll be critical of even myself in this, is we are accountants, and this is a bookkeeping scenario that's coming through here, and accountants don't necessarily make good bookkeepers in my experience. So I think there's probably another layer of a team within a practice like ours, where we need to have somebody that is willing to come in and just process information for the clients that don't want to engage and take these systems on. Whenever we looked at this initially, we split it into 3 sections of types of clients. First one being very easy, and that the clients that have already got the systems are willing to put the systems in, and they will eventually look after themselves, and the quarter will be reasonably easy to maintain. The second one then is the client actually trying to take this on themselves, the ones that are maybe a wee bit unsure, and that's probably the one out of the 3 that worries me most, because systems coming into our offices that are not maintained well become more time consuming than us actually preparing from core records ourselves. And then our last one was actually us then having to get in and get involved, which is hard. Probably our problem there is it's harder to get a good return on our investment. Which is, whenever we looked at MTD for VAT, is why we went for the simple spreadsheet, because we were able to roll it out to our clients easier. And I still feel that might be something, a direction we actually end up at, is that it's a simple spreadsheet model that we roll out to clients and use ourselves to navigate our way through this, rather than some of the QuickBooks and the Xeros and the Sage. I'm maybe not answering your question, Eva, there, but that's, I can't criticize. I can't honestly criticize where SECA or any of the bodies. I think they're telling us what we need to do. it's doing it. That is the problem.
Yeah, no, I do appreciate it, and this is kind of very fine from what I see out there, because I think what needs to happen, and this probably needs to be kind of wider national campaign, where we educate our clients, where the clients will get the fact that it's not the accountants who are imposing this on their clients, but this is actually the HMRC. So kind of the clients see the accountant as helping hand rather than somebody who is imposing those rules on them. So I do agree with you that, yeah, professional bodies, the majority of them, they do amazing work and are giving amazing support. The other thing that you have mentioned is a bookkeeping, and I do believe that this is the big part, and this is the cornerstone and the basis for everything, because if that isn't right, then everything else falls apart. People are trying to say that compliance is that, those things may be not really any cool, they're not cool anymore, or they don't matter, but it's the exact opposite, because that's where it's all coming from. What's any fabulous advisory good for if we don't have the basis good? So it always comes back to that, and I do know what you mean, because when I remember I was trying to explain to colleagues in the practice where I worked, but your year end, ultimately it's just a bookkeeping, majority of it's a bookkeeping job. You just do it once a year rather than on a quarterly basis. So that's quite an important thing for clients to realize, that if there is no solid bookkeeping or record keeping, everything else then goes wrong. And something else you hinted on, Andrew, there can be so many wonderful systems, digital accounting software, but if the input isn't right, then the result isn't any good. And you probably might as well do everything manually, because it'll be quicker. Now, I'd like to bring Linda on to this discussion. It was funny, we had discussion on LinkedIn last night, because I always assume everybody knows what making tax digital means, but Linda kind of put me rightly straight, because she asked, could you explain? So I said, okay, of course, how can they know in Australia? But the reply we got from Linda was very interesting, and I'd like for all of you to hear that, because it was very interesting to hear what stage they are. So Linda kind of questioned at you what stage you are, compare it to where we are now, what you know so far, what you heard, and please tell me that it was all good and positive, that we have something good to look forward to. Please, can I just, before I let you speak, Linda, anybody who, if you are guys on the Clubhouse, if you're not speaking, can you just please mute yourselves? And then when I invite you to speak, you can unmute yourself. So just kind of a bit of a technical thing. But Linda, I'm keen to hear your opinion.
Sure, Eva, and thank you so much for that LinkedIn conversation last night. It was very helpful. But I think the important thing is that, and like I said to you, I'm talking to the United States and Canada as well, and they're on their own journey as well. So I think for us practitioners and people working in accounting, that it's very important that we learn from around the world, because making tax digital, or it's whatever its iterations are around the world, it's coming together to do the same thing, really around the world, and using technology to do that. Australia's experience, just by way of a little bit of background, was our GST, or our consumption tax, was brought in the year 2000. And that was the first time that we saw a big push into computerized accounting software. And so what helped us to educate clients more so, because that's really what these things are educating clients on why they need to do these things, was actually the software companies themselves. But I mean, they had their own agenda for doing what they wanted to do. And of course, accountants had their other agenda. But what we saw happen in probably the 5 to 7 years after that happening is what you've all touched on too, is that accountants in Australia became so super busy, but yet we didn't see increases in profit margins or things like that. Our costing and our business models took a real hit because we weren't actually realizing that we did need that different mix of people. And what Andrew spoke about before was the bookkeepers. And so what we've slowly been working towards is that, you know, accountants turned into almost glorified bookkeepers, because we do know that accounting software is great, but a little bit of knowledge is dangerous. So in clients' hands, it can become an absolute disaster. So again, you know, that simple solution that Andrew has offered up until now has been a great thing. And we saw some of that also happen over here as well. Australia has since moved on from there, and there are other parts of now our tax system being made digital, as it were. So our regulatory bodies are starting to pull information directly from clients' accounting software, and they're needing to report on quarterly basis, and with our wages and employee taxes and the withholding of that is now done just as recent as the last 18 months on every pay cycle. So the ATO, the Australian Tax Office, is collecting that information every single pay cycle for every single business. We saw rollouts the same as what you're mentioning. You know, businesses of a certain size had to do it by a certain date, and then businesses of a next size did it at a, you know, another date. But again, they were very big educational waves that accountants had to undertake. And Andrew's right, we're accountants. And there's a part of us that just doesn't want to change anything either. And so we then just go, well, we're not doing this and not worrying about it until we have to at the very end. And then all of a sudden we find that our clients go, no, what are you talking about? I don't want to do this. And it takes us longer to educate. So get on board with this is probably my message. Learn, skill up your team. What does this look like? Get your service offerings in line. You know, if you are going to help a client with accounting software, then what does that look like? Do I have the people in place? How much should I be charging for that? If I'm going to offer, you know, a middle sort of version, which is a bit, you know, played back from that, and then a very simplistic version. What are our service standards, and what are we going to look at? And then you really need to stick to them. But, you know, as a firm, I think you've got to really plan, educate yourself, and then continually over time educate your clients, because that's what it's really about. And whether you want to call it selling or positioning or whatever it is, because that S word, as accountants, we don't like it. How do we do that? But it's about positioning it to the client so they can understand, and what are the benefits for them. So it's finding the benefits for them, the benefits for you. Obviously, there's benefits for our regulatory authorities. That's why it's being done. But, you know, it's just finding that win-win for everybody and moving forward with it. And we're starting to talk here in Australia that educating our business owners, even the micro business owners, you know, that when you start business, one of the imposts now is having accounting software, understanding it, or having a qualified bookkeeper at least help you out or train you, or, you know, review your work on a regular basis, because there's just so much compliance now that you have to do that. That's just part of owning a business now. And I think that that's where the education is that it's an impost of business. And if you're a smart business owner, you learn about that too, and you get on with it, and you worry about all the other stuff that makes business great. But yes, it is, you know, I think now we're here in Australia, accountants are used to this. The workload has spread out, which has been amazing. we're seeing that accountants are forming stronger and better relationships with clients because they're talking to them more often. They're forced to talk to them more often, whether that's quarterly or monthly even now, and the ability to put better services and communication models around that. So yes, there absolutely is light at the end of the tunnel. It's a great thing, and if we're smart about using the technology and really utilising those things, then I think I said it last night in LinkedIn, but this is a great thing for accounting, because in the space that I'm in, which is helping accountants, you know, build advisory, business service and things like that, we can get out from underneath this compliance. If we can do that really slick and smart and use our technology, then we've got more time. Instead of being glorified bookkeepers, we've got more time to help our clients with the really cool stuff. And that's about thriving in business and, you know, really playing that vital role that we are destined to play ever. So it's a wonderful thing, but yes, it's certainly a mountain to climb. I can understand. I hope that's helped a little bit.
It's perfect. Linda, thank you. I unmuted myself on the. Thank you so much, Ulbinda. It was great. Thank you. Linda, thank you. Yeah. I unmuted myself on the. Thank you so much. See you later. Bye. It was great.